And so good morning again. If you don't know me, I'm Reverend Elisha Christopher. I am the spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Santa Cruz. I do use they and them pronouns, and my ancestors come from all over the world. We know they immigrated to this country from Ireland, Scotland, Austria, and Holland. Wow. I woke up this morning really not knowing what I had to say today. And I started thinking about this idea that we teach in Science of Mind and in Centers for Spiritual Living, that there are 4 levels of consciousness, that there are 4 ways that we interact with life. And in the body of work that's called Fear to Faith, which comes up in some of the classes that we teach, we talk about these 4 levels of awareness, or 4 ways of interacting with the world. As kingdoms of consciousness, I call them the 4 worlds. And in world 1, we say the world is happening to me, right? Everything I see, everything I experience is happening to me. I am at the effect of life, right? The second world is where we see life happening by us, where we learn that we can take control, or we have some agency. This is where we learn we can manifest, that we are creators, that we are participants in life. The third layer, or third world, is this idea where we see life or spirit or the something more happening through us. That life is happening not just by us, but it's happening through us. There's a greater essence that's coming through. There's something more that's showing up as the music of our life, as the inspiration, as the word, as the something more that's emerging constantly. And then the fourth world is the world we say, life is happening as me. I am it. And so I'm contemplating this morning, and I get a message from a friend that says, no need to respond to this, but I've just been reading in one of Joanna Macy's books, and she talks about 4 archetypes for how to look at the world right now. And she says the first one is to look at the world as a trap, where everywhere we walk, there are things ready to capture our attention, right? There are little things we can stumble upon. There are those things that catch our consciousness. How many of you have walked into traps in consciousness or in the world and found that it completely takes over our mind, right? And that when we believe that the world is a trap, we are constantly on defense, right? And we are living through in defensiveness. And I was thinking, it's kind of like if you think the world is a trap, it's kind of like it's all happening to me, right? So then I'm looking through this list, and she says the second archetype is to look at the world as a battlefield, where we have to conquer, where we're fighting, right? Where there's constantly something to fight in the world. And from that place, right, we're probably often on the offense, right? We're feeling like we have to protect ourselves, like there's something that we're fighting against, that whether that is our old beliefs, whether it's our history, whether it's the things that are happening in the world or those outer forces, we feel that there's something that we are in battle with. And I think there's a lot of that going on in the world right now. A lot of battlefield consciousness. There's a lot we feel we have to fight. There's a lot that we feel is coming at us that we have to be perhaps even offended about, that offense. But then she says the third archetype is to see the world as your lover. To be looking for the allurement, to be looking for the connection, to be looking for the beauty, the something more that pulls you in, that gravity, that love. Right? And also to be looking, when you look at the world as the lover, it also means that you're looking at every single one as the beloved. Which means that the world, if the world is your lover, that means the lover, the divine, the infinite one, is looking back at you through the eyes of each and every person that you see. And I think we often talk in our spiritual work about looking for the beloved in life. Right, about looking for that divine presence that's looking back at us, that allurement, that desire, that love, that pull that life has for us. And then the fourth archetype, she says, is to look at the world as the self. where everyone and everything you see is you. That everything that you see, everything that comes at you, every single thing that you see on the news, every single thing that happens in the world, every single thing that someone else does is somehow a manifestation, a reflection of your own consciousness. That you are seeing yourself reflected back. And that everything that is showing up is somehow, some way, part of you asking to be awakened. So I was sitting with this going, well, we can see the world is happening to me, by me, through me, or as me. Or I can see it as a trap, a battlefield, a lover, or the self. And I always kind of think in these models that if there's a goal, it's not to get anywhere, but I do think it's to get out of those first two and into the second two. And I think that threshold between the by me, I'm in control, and the through me, where I'm letting something else happen, that's the biggest leap one has to make. Because it's in that place we let go of control. Right? How many of you are artists or make poetry or paint or draw or music or anything like that? Has anyone ever created anything? Okay, great. So oftentimes in the creative process, if I've painted things in my life, I wouldn't say I'm a painter, but I have painted. And anytime I've set out to create a painting, there's been this idea of what I think I'm going to do. And when I'm trying to control the outcome, it only goes to a certain place. I'm only so happy with the result. But when I've engaged in art projects where I think I have an idea, but I start to let go of control, and the brush starts to move, the colors start to blend, new images start to emerge as you're engaging in the process, that's that process of letting go of control, of opening up to the something more and allowing that thing to come through, right? And similarly, there's kind of a big jump between seeing the world as a battlefield and seeing the world as the lover. Again, we have to stop fighting. We have to stop pushing. We have to stop seeking to control and begin to open, to see how it is that we can hold each other, how it is that we are being drawn together, how it is that the love itself is seeking to awaken between us. And I always like these models of perception or models of the world because they give us some kind of framework that we can work with. And I would invite you to just take a moment and think for yourself as you look out at the world, as you look at your life and your circumstances, even just today, which one of these lenses is most alive for you? Are you walking through the world as if it's a trap and there's something you're going to step in, or someone's going to get you, or there's some bad thing that's happening that we can't escape, and so we're constantly on defense? Are you here for the battle? Are you here fighting because there's things that we need to stand up for? There's things that we need to create. There's energy that we need to take control of. So are you in the battle? Are you looking for the beloved? Are you walking through your life looking for the divine presence, looking for love, looking for connection, looking for the something more in the eyes of each and every person, looking at life as if it's just waiting to embrace and hold you? Or are you in a space where you're able to move through life and see that everyone is you, looking back at you? And just notice where you are. Because none of these are better or worse. They're all just opportunities to see how we are interacting with life. And then perhaps once we see where we think we might be, we can then look at this little map and say, am I where I want to be? And maybe reach for the next available destination. right? It may be, if many of us are in a moment right now where we're feeling complete separation from others or from the world, where we feel like all these things are coming at us, it might be really hard to jump all the way to, it's all me, it's all God, we're all one. But maybe reach up and find some control. Take control of the situation. Take control of your thoughts. Take control of your emotions. Begin to engage in practices like spiritual mind treatment, affirmation, and meditation to begin to condition your mind. Take control of your thinking so that you can rise up into the next sort of layer of consciousness, even just for a minute, because it helps us peek up and get a little greater perspective. Right? And Abraham Hicks always says, don't try to make the gigantic leap from wherever you are. If you're depressed, don't reach for bliss. Like, if you're in despair, reach for anger. Because it's a higher emotion. It's a higher vibration. You go from helplessness to something that engages your power. And then once you're angry, reach up again and find the next available emotion that might be passion, that might be empowerment. Right? And so the spiritual journey, the mental journey that we're all walking through is about constantly reaching to the next rung on the ladder, the next layer in consciousness, the next room in our minds that's available to us. And we have to work where we are. We have to be where we are. And I don't think that any of these are permanent destinations. I think that any given day, probably since I woke up this morning, I've probably moved through all 4 of these in some way or another, right? And we do that. And I think part of it is to give ourselves the permission to be in any of these worlds whenever we find ourselves there. Because it's okay. There is nothing that is outside of this experience that we call God, which means everything from terror to ecstasy, from joy to despair, is included in this thing that we call oneness. Right? Which is confusing sometimes because I think we like our oneness to be all about love and wholeness and interconnection, and it's all beauty and good when we're in the oneness. But that idea of oneness tends to put things outside of our oneness. And I keep coming back to this thing that I don't even know that I have words for, but I'm going to use some words to try to talk about it. And I keep trying to talk to it, but I really believe that there is something happening in our world that is here for us. That all of the pain, all of the war, all of the genocide, all of the division, all of the hatred, all of the oppression, all of the things that are happening that are so horrible, that are wearing all of our hearts and minds down, and I can feel it, I feel it in myself, is waking something up. You know, I appreciate the words from your song, Jesse. I've been on every shore of every ocean, and there's nowhere to go but deep. There's nowhere to go but into the oneness. We might feel like this world is a trap. We might feel like this world is a battlefield. But we've got to go deeper than that. We've got to reach into that which is underneath, within, and around all of it. And I feel it when we come together in this space. And in the last couple weeks, I've been feeling it more and more. I can barely sit in this room without crying when we're singing and praying together, because my heart is so full and broken with what's happening in our nation and in our world. But then when we come together and we sing and we pray and we be in the oneness, it just cracks my heart and my mind open. And I think that the pressure is building, right? And we are all being moved through these layers of consciousness together. And I think it's that the self, the lover, the something more is calling on us. And each of these circumstances that are happening in our lives and in our world are pulling on our hearts. And in the process, our hearts are cracking open. And I had this cute little vision in my mind last week I was thinking about the Grinch who stole Christmas. I know. There's powerful metaphors everywhere, people. And I was thinking about this, and, the Grinch comes along and tries to steal Christmas, right? And he goes into Whoville, and he steals the roast beast, and he steals all the presents, and he steals all the garland, and he steals all the things, and hoards them for himself, and goes back up, and then he's standing on Christmas morning, waiting to hear all of the cries of sorrow and boo-hoo, and how horrible all this has been. And what do the Who's do? They sing. They sing, right? They come out on Christmas Day and they all gather together in a circle and they all sing the song that no matter what has been taken away from them, they still gather and sing. And I started to think about us, that no matter what keeps being stripped away from our country, from our hearts, from our lives, we continue to come together and sing and pray. And when the Grinch is sitting on the edge of the cliff looking down at Whoville, waiting for all the terrible screams of horror, all he hears is a song of praise and prayer. And then his heart grows 2 sizes too big, right? And the story changes. And what if that's our invitation? Is to keep singing, to keep praying to the beloved, to the self, to that one who is alive and awake and aware in the world regardless of circumstance. But when we are in the midst of the deepest, most darkest circumstances and we're still able to sing and pray and hold the truth, something happens within us that is greater than any of our mental constructs can talk about or understand. But there's a vibration, there's a shift, there's a cracking open. And I feel it. I feel it when we're together. I feel it when I see the people of this country stepping out and rising up. I feel it. And our job is to continuously cultivate this presence of something more. That regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the outside forces, regardless of how much the Grinch tries to steal Christmas, we are going to continue to raise a higher vibration and to sing to the self, to sing to the beloved, to pray for the more of us to reveal itself. And then what happens is something in us starts to shift and change, so that then as we walk in the world, that vibration, that sight, that word, that energy, it goes with us everywhere we go. And then as we interact with other individuals, hearts and minds can awaken and be healed. And we invite more people into this collective song with us. But it also means that we have to keep coming back to do the work together, to build this thing in consciousness so that none of us get stuck in a place of thinking that the world is a trap. And that none of us get hypnotized into being part of the battle. Because this is not our battlefield. I'm thinking in the Bhagavad Gita, there's this story about Krishna and Arjuna, and there's this battle that's about to happen, and it's his family on both sides of the battle. It's his cousins on either side who are ready to be at battle with each other, and this whole dialogue, the whole Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna trying to figure out, how do I hold this moment when my family is turned against each other, and I know that we are all one, but everyone feels like we have to be in the battle. And Krishna, the great lover, the one self, gives the song, gives the story, gives us the guidance to keep turning back to the oneness. Because when there's only one of us here, when it's just the one self, there's no one and no thing to fight against. And so take a deep breath on that. And let it go. Oh yeah, do that again. Take a deep breath in. Let it out with a sigh. One more. Take another deep breath in together. And let it go. And let's drop in a little more. Let us allow ourselves to remember right here, right now, in this very moment, that there is only one of us here. That as we chanted at the beginning of this service, there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. It is each one of our life. And indeed, it is that one life who is the only one of us that is here, the one life that is living and breathing in, through, and as everyone and everything, everywhere, everywhen, all the time. Absolute oneness. And no one, no thing, no situation separate from that oneness. And so as we breathe into this space, as we allow these words to wash over us today, I just speak a word for each one of us, remembering that we are on a journey through these layers of consciousness always. That at any given moment we might fall into the trap, we may become engaged in the battle, but let us have these practices, let us be reminded of these greater truths, that we are being invited to engage with the lover itself, with the beloved, with the one who is here looking back at us, even through those eyes of those who we see might be doing harm or creating hatred or division in the world. There is a call for each one of us to look into those spaces and look for the divinity. Not to give permission nor say that it's okay, but to see what happens when the light of God reflects itself back into our eyes. When we remember the truth of who we are, when we remember the power that's available to us, when we remember the life that lives through us, when we remember the one. And so let us just breathe ever deeper into this truth, that there is only one life. And that each one of us are here right now in this world to be revealers of that truth, to be revealers of that oneness, to be the hands and the feet and the voice of the beloved. So that as we walk as the lovers of life, everyone we interact with becomes an opportunity to reflect back that that self-same loving truth is available to them. That as we remember the truth of who we are, we give others the opportunity to remember it for themselves. And so no matter what comes our way, no matter how the weight of the world lands on us, let us remember that our hearts are opening, and that opening of the heart can hold it all. And in that opening, we awaken. And so I'm just grateful for this community, for the energy we cultivate together, for the song that we sing, for the prayer that moves through us, for this energy that lifts us up and carries us, for the opportunity to remember the truth of who we are. I'm grateful. And so let's take another breath. And in the simplicity of that breath, remember that we are being breathed. Remember that something more is living through us, that we are so much more than these finite little human bodies, that we are infinite source, creative potential, that something greater is seeking to express through and as each one of us. And so let us surrender, open, allow, let go, and let God, and let it be. And let's say together, and so it is.